Good morning, GenXRant Nation. This is your host, David. I am here to say, I told you so. So today's news is going to be gaming and tech. We're going to start with the gaming news, which is kind of interesting because, as the title might have suggested, I told you so, because there's been some, interesting things going on this weekend. Today's Monday, and I had said, 2-ish days ago that Xbox is probably, I said theoretically, two things are going to happen. And this was part of my shorts as well as my long form video. Please go check it out. Subscribe, share, do all those things so that the algorithm knows that you guys are watching and you're catching on to all this stuff. But what was the news? Well, the news was, firstly, that Xbox Game Pass went nuts and went from $23-ish Canadian to nearly 25, or 35, sorry, in the US. It went from 20 to 30, which is a 50% increase for Ultimate. And what they added was a lot of garbage, in my opinion. Please go watch the video. I go over it. The shorts aren't the greatest because they just take these like chunks. AI likes to take these chunks out of your video, and it kind of can be out of context. But let's just go back to that video. I'm going to just share my screen here. Let's go through this. I think this is a bit better so you can see me with my beautiful face. All right, let's go back to a little video. It was called, do you like that look there? The look of wool. My video was titled, The Decline of Xbox. Is Microsoft exiting the gaming console space? Now, AI had not quite put that title. I had adjusted it like an hour later to say console space because that's really what I was thinking. And that was 2 days ago that I had talked about this on my videos. 2 days ago that I had predicted. It's kind of odd. I had said two things. One, they're increasing the price, even though they have failed this generation. There's, in the US, Costco no longer, and I'm assuming Canada, no longer carries the Xbox. I live in Canada. I've gone into GameStop, and I've noticed over the last year specifically that GameStop does not have a display wall anymore, specifically to the Xbox games and to the Xbox consoles. Now, you can look around and still find them. A lot of their merchandise is no longer new, but is the pre-owned stuff. When I asked them, because I have 3 Xbox Series X's, I have 3. One is slightly damaged, but the other 2 are in great condition. When I asked the people there, how much would I get for my Xbox Series X? That was about 8 months ago. They said they'd give me like some stupid amount, like $75. So that tells you all you need to know about supply and demand of the Xbox Series X. I am a Xbox fan. That's all I've had for a system other than the Switch. I have never used a PlayStation. I was a Nintendo person. Then I was an Xbox person. I had the Xbox 360, the terrible Xbox One, the much greater Xbox One X, that was a night and day difference from the Xbox One. That was an incredible system. 4K. That's why I'm like, this is kind of where I'm going to rant a bit about. Dave's going to do a rant. PC Nation people, I've been doing 4K 30 frames a second up to 60 frames a second for a long time, for at least 12 years. And I would always go with my Xbox consoles with an OLED 120 hertz TV since LG's been making OLED 120 hertz. And the difference is night and day to PC gaming. I'm sorry. And yes, you could say, oh, but David, my 5090 $2,500 card is way better than yours. Sure, but you paid $2,500 card. Now I've got a family, and I got better things to do than sit at my computer and do the keyboard. I know some people love keyboard. I used to do it when I was younger. But once I switched to the tactile feel of the Xbox controller, I was done with the mouse and the keyboard because I found it too awkward. And the ability to have all those buttons and to do everything in one space was a lot more interesting to me. And to sit on the couch and relax is a lot better to game, right? I'm not distracted by other things going on. When I game with PC, it's like Civ 6, things that are more turn-based because, you're kind of, it's like chess. You're playing chess and doing other things at the same time. But anyways, that's a rant on something different. back to Xbox. So I had 360. I had the 360 like black version. I still got that over there in my collection. I had Xbox One, and then I got rid of that piece of junk with the stupid Kinect, which was a disaster for Xbox. That's where they went down. That their CEO is an idiot. Phil Spencer took over, but as my previous video said, he hasn't done anything good for Xbox since. Series X was an improvement, but it's called the bread box. It's an ugly console, plays Blu-rays, runs okay, but nothing special. In fact, I think a lot of people will admit that, like, from the PS4 and the Xbox, at least One X to today, there wasn't a big change. Like, it wasn't a generational leap like it was from the 360, I think, to at least PS4, giving them all the credit they are due. PS5, Xbox Series X has been kind of like a dud, especially Microsoft. Now, Switch, don't want to talk about it. I think Nintendo is just a money grubbing. I'm a big Nintendo fan, but there's only so many times I want to buy the same Mario for, over and over and over and pay that incredible fee. So the big thing is that Microsoft stopped, and this is the guys that were commenting in my shorts. Thank you for commenting, but you talk about facts and stuff. Well, the fact of the matter is Xbox, aka Microsoft, has not reported their console numbers for about 2 or 3 years now. They stopped at about 20 million, 22 million-ish, and they stopped after that. But everybody agrees, including them. Phil Spencer said that they're not doing well. So when they're not making money, they're not selling consoles, and everything is shifting over to a subscription service like the Xbox Game Pass, which is a load of garbage because they're not going to be able to compete with. I'm sorry, you're not going to compete with Steam. You're not. Nobody has been able to. Good luck with that. You're not going to do it. You're going to get crushed because people would much rather own their digital copies than get the copies in and out and pulled all the time. Now, that's a different conversation. I'm going to make a big rant on digital versus physical and how so many people of you say, well, owning's better. I own my Steam game. If Steam shut down tomorrow, you'd own nothing because the digital copy still has to connect to Steam. I'm going to rant about that later. I'm sorry. Anyways, I called it this video here. I went through that. I also had another short about how the cost. Now, there's 2 scenarios that can happen here. Either Xbox will do one more console and it will probably die on the vine and it's going to be $1,000. I talked about that. It's too much money. And if you think, oh, $1,000 is too much, of course it is. But they have done that in the past. A lot of the gaming consoles way back in the 80s that tried to compete with Nintendo and Atari and such, they died on the vine because they were too expensive. They were like $600 US back in the 80s, which was like $1,200 today. So think about that. You got $1,000 console, $850 US console. Crazy. Not going to sell. Nobody's going to have the money to buy it. The economy's not good. And everybody will claim, I can build a PC for that. Well, of course you can build a PC, but when your graphics card alone costs $600 or $1,000, just shut up about that, okay? I'm sorry. I'm ranting today because I'm tired of people and they're blah, blah, blah. Everybody's against everybody. But the facts of the matter is Microsoft has not been reporting their console numbers, and they've admitted that they're not doing well. And just like Sega, who did a disaster with one of their consoles, it tanked the company. And when the Dreamcast came out, they were too late. That was it. And they were gone. And they became a publisher of software, of games. That's it. And that was it. Sega had only lasted for like 10 years inside maybe 12, 13 years inside the console space. So Microsoft's been 25 years and has been a distant third since the Xbox 360. That's a fact. So why would they spend money when the CEO of Microsoft specifically wants to just make revenue and doesn't care about gamers and consoles? They've never really been in the hardware space. They've never been comfortable. The phone was junk. The Zune failed. Everything that they do that's hardware fails. And once again, I'm an Xbox fan. I love the Xbox. but I'm not going to put on a face and pretend that it is not about to fail. So let's go back to where I suddenly, and this was like 55 minutes ago. So amid swirling rumors of hardware exit, Microsoft reassures gamers October 5th, which was yesterday, that Xbox remains committed to next-gen console development, contradicting claims. So there's a contradiction, but I don't believe Xbox. I do not believe them. They have said many things in the past that aren't true. Now, does that mean that they're not telling the truth? I don't know. It's all rumors and speculation at this time. But I'm leaning towards, and in my opinion, they will not make a next Xbox. They will just bow out and go completely to try to be the next Steam and charge $30 a month for games. And it's not going to work. So, taken from this article from Windows Central. Thank you, Windows Central. Please go check out the article yourself. So Microsoft confirms X, and of course it's a Windows Central, so it reports on Windows. You know what? I'm going to take a cup of coffee before I read this. Canadians and our coffee. You like my mug? Bass Pro Shops. Lovely. Here's why rumors are false, and it's going to be a biased. Xbox isn't going all cloud. Don't believe your lying eyes at everything that they are doing. Next-gen consoles are still coming, and rumors of Xbox console demise have been greatly exaggerated. You know, the shills always say this stuff. Amid swirling rumors, so that's where the AI pulled this. How can we know that it will be true the next quarter? Let's put aside for a minute the fact that Xbox Game Pass remains primary. I want to see numbers of how much people are actually subscribed to this thing. And after a lot of people canceled. And it was most prolific of Xbox console hardware. The bulk of the users are right now. No, they're not. A lot of people are also on PC. Let's put aside the fact that Xbox cloud gaming is restricted by location and it expects thank you for saying the truth there. Combine that with the fact that the same silicon you could give people their own cloud. No, that's not how it works. That's a dumb statement. Natively in their house and get them to use their own electricity to power it. You know, like a console. But that would take control away. And that would take, that's like saying, oh, Netflix should put we should still make Netflix boxes because it's expensive to stream stuff. I mean, yeah, but once the infrastructure is up and running and it's proven, then the money is in driving people back and creating what's been the last 15 years, whether it be Adobe, Microsoft Office, everything goes to a subscription model. That's what they want. That's all they know. That's all they can think of. Subscription model. They don't want physical cartridges or physical media, even digital media that you could play offline and own. They don't want that. They want subscription and rotating and being the next Netflix, but for gaming. That's what they want. And it already failed once when our good buddies Amazon tried it. Anyways, you see, I'm really in a good rant. This is Monday, rant mode. And that's why the bulk of users are right now. Let's set aside the fact that, whoever wrote this, all of these rumors emerged from the wake of Microsoft's barely explicit. We already talked about that. The fact that the latest hardware exit rumors continue. So I'm not going to show this hardware rumor. You can check it out. It's all over the place right now. It's what people claim is a reliable source that's been correct in the past. I don't know. Speculation, rumors, whatever. The fact that the latest hardware exit rumors, blah, blah, blah. And there's our favorite lady that doesn't know what she's doing. Sarah, what's her name? I could easily be just a source claiming that Xbox hardware is still on the table. Again, that's the point. But it was our sources that confirmed the existence of the Xbox Series X. So what? Their specs, their price, additional to the canceled cloud Keystone console. A shelf first-party Xbox handheld, which they announced they were releasing that and then canceled that and decided to partner with ROG and let them make it with a stamped X on it. Who cares? And more recently, the Xbox Ally, which is what I just mentioned. Codename Keenan and comprised of Omni Xbox Ally and the Horseman Xbox Ally X. I don't care about the two handhelds, they will fail. The Xbox Ally range is part of Microsoft's multi-year partnership with AMD. So I'm going to rant just for a microsecond on the Xbox Ally X. If Swift 2, which is like some crazy amount of money and very underpowered compared to what I'm sure the Ally will be, but at the end of the day, it's got a good game library and it's Nintendo and it can do 4K 60. And it's like 650 Canadian. You think I'm going to spend $12.50 Canadian, which is what I'm going to pay as Canadian for the Xbox Ally X, when I can get a Nintendo Switch 2, which I don't even want to buy for half the price? What are you thinking, Nintendo and ROG? Holy smokes. I love AMD, by the way. I don't blame them. They're just making money. They're just making what people ask for. I've asked multiple trusted sources. Please state your sources if you're going to say stuff like that. Many of whom spoke to me about the device's previous, which turned out to be true, about the Xbox present hardware posture, and with Microsoft's confirmation. There's no reason to think anything is changing. Microsoft publicly confirmed that it's still committed to the first-party Xbox hardware over the summer. I don't care what they also have raised prices on the Xbox now twice this year. And I swear they've raised the prices on Xbox Game Pass twice, because I recall them raising it and I had to I wasn't sure I could afford it, but maybe that's just my imagination, but I'm sure they've done that within the year or two, at least a little bit. The original, maybe it's just Canada they did that. The original comments come from the gaming forum and suggested Xbox focus would be its core mega franchise. I don't really care what they say about that. We're talking about hardware now. But I want to go back. He says he's got sources. He mentions this, which is fair. Combined with huge price hikes, retailers like Costco and others are removing Xbox. And I mentioned GameStop removing. Basically, they're getting out of the Xbox business as well for quite a while. I mean, they barely support it whatsoever in Canada. I don't know what the US is like. So you got Costco getting out. I'm sure Walmart will likely follow that, because when I go to Walmart, there's barely any Xbox cases either. It's up front. It's Nintendo in Canada, at least for Walmart, Nintendo and PS5. Go walk in your local Walmart and see what they put front facing, like what you can see as soon as you walk into the electronics department. Gaming is not necessarily utility. Yeah. So people are Costco's huge and they're not carrying it. Sam's Club just announced that they're not carrying the Xbox. So you think they're suddenly going to say, oh yeah, we had Xbox Series X, which is, awesome, just sit on the shelf collecting dust, which we had to mark down and take a loss on. Sure, yeah, let's bring in the next Xbox console. It ain't going to happen, people. And when you can't have people sell your product and you can only sell it on your website and never have sales and stuff like that, or maybe Amazon, but Amazon will sell dirt. I mean, they'll sell whatever as long as you can ship it. I like how they show this Xbox Game Pass sinking in the ocean. That's so true. So this person, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to disparage you, but I can tell the fanboy when I hear one. I wouldn't believe your sources. I think from top down, they're not telling the management probably the truth, because if I recall, all the layoffs were rumored incorrectly. I'm not going to read the rest of this. It's a lot of too long, didn't read stuff. But at the end of the day, I said in my long form video 3 days ago, and I still stick by that, either the next Xbox, which is possible, I'm about 25% leaning they might still release it, but I think it would be foolish and a waste of money. 25% chance of a release, it'll be $1,000 for the base, and then $1,200. And I'm talking Canadian dollars. I apologize to my US friends. So maybe $850 your magic money. So $1,000 Canadian, because they're already prepping you for those prices, and probably $1,200 for the good old, X version of whatever this is. 25% chance. But I lean towards what the leaker said. And once again, my opinion is that Xbox is gearing to leave the console market. And I'm concerned because all of my movies that I purchased through them, which suddenly shut down, and you think, oh, they're not going to exit the market. They shut down with zero notice, selling and renting videos. Just shut it down. No reason. Didn't say why. There was no official announcement. Just did it. Just, by the way, you can't rent or buy any movies, but you can still enjoy the movies you want. How long? When you shut that service down, I will not be able to access them anymore. When Zune shut down its music services, do you think anyone had any support or could get their digital copies ever again? No. I'd have to leave it there and hope that it's not wanting to connect to the server, which it will be wanting because it's not a hard copy or a hard digital copy on my Xbox. It doesn't take up any room. It's streamed. So once the movie server shut down for Microsoft, that's it. And once the game ones shut down and they say we've had enough, all of you people that own this, done. We're not supporting. As soon as you hear the words, we're not supporting the Xbox Series X or S, all of your games will be useless. Hopefully not. Hopefully they'll carry those digital copies into the future. But where? Are they going to allow you to pay it on PC after that? It's going to be a mess. So again, in my opinion, most likely Xbox will no longer exist. It'll be just Microsoft. It'll go back to Microsoft. It won't be, they're going to change the name. You'll see. Maybe they'll keep Xbox, but it's got a tainted brand now. They'll probably go back to the old school Microsoft Game Pass, which I think it was called a while ago. Ranting about gaming is done. So, you dudes that commented back down here, you know who you are. Told you so. Let's talk about something a little more cool that is tech-based. Probably this will be in the next console, PS6. Maybe in the Switch 3 when it comes out, 14 years from now. USB 4 version 2, so not the version 1, but a version 2, which I didn't even, I'm a little behind on the USB technology because there's so many naming schemes for USB, it gets tiring, but this is interesting. So jumping into this, USB version 2. So on 18th of October 2022, so literally almost 3 years ago, the USB Promoter Group released USB 4 version 2.0. So USB 4 in general has been out for a while. It's kind of the same technology as Thunderbolt. Kind of borrowed that technology, or is very similar. Not exactly the same, but similar. So it added a new transmission speed that allows 80 gigabits per second symmetric connection or asymmetric connection supporting 120 gigabits in one direction, so probably upload, right? So from the card to wherever, and 40 gigabits in the other direction. You don't really need as much coming back, but you definitely need the pipeline to be bigger on the way there, which is smart. I agree with that. The new PAM3 encoding scheme enables this over existing passive USB 40 gigabits per second cables. I highly doubt that that'll work. There'll probably be some limitations because I know they have already 80 gigabits per second cabling out, if not faster. Active cables are not forward compatible. So there you go. Instead of a new speed grade of active cables was added. So there you go. It wasn't new. It's also upgraded the supports of DP tunnels or direct. How am I forgetting the acronym of DP? DisplayPort. Sorry. DisplayPort tunneling. So every graphics card since a long time has used DisplayPort or HDMI DisplayPort. People like PC gaming tends to prefer PC. I prefer HDMI 2.1 because it's very compatible with TVs. DisplayPort was never adopted to most TVs, probably 99.999% of TVs. But HDMI 2.1 was, and that's a pretty good technology. But DP, admittedly, I will admit, it is a higher bandwidth protocol, allowing the tunneling of DP connections with up to 80 gigabits per second or UHBR2O. It also added a replacement of the previous tunneling of classic USB 3.2, so there's still like a backward compatibility of that tech with USB 3 Gen T tunneling, which can exceed 20 gigabits per second and also remove PCIe overhead limitations. That's pretty cool. So PCIe is the port on the PC, like where you put in your cards usually. Around the release of the new USB 2.0 specifications, USB-IF also mandated new logos. So there's always going to, if it's official, it should have that logo. In September 2023, Intel announced the launch of Thunderbolt 5 as an implementation. So basically, these two things are now kind of the same thing. I'm sure Thunderbolt 5 comes with a few different caveats. But this is an interesting upgrade of technology because like that's astronomically faster. Like I have a motherboard that does have the USB 4, so you can get 40 gigabits per second, theoretical. And that's pretty incredible because to run 4K, you're talking 160 hertz or you're getting to 8K 60 hertz. You need that bandwidth. And to do your audio codecs aren't as complex, but to run that, like the new technology and where it's going, and eventually we'll go to 8K. Graphics cards, I think specifically, have gotten way behind. That's not to say the tech won't catch up eventually, but it says a lot. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The thing that has slowed down 4K for PC gaming has been ray tracing, because ray tracing is so complex. It really bogs it down modern day graphics cards, and you have to. I would think they should just make another processor built on a graphics card, a GPU, so they kind of do the same job. It kind of is that way, but isn't that way at the same time. I think a dedicated is what I want to mean. If they're so concerned about it, so that you're not slowing down your frames per second. But I think all this frame generation thing is not a good look for where the industry is going for graphics. But this technology, getting back to USB 2.0, we're talking 120 gigabits or 80 gigabits up and down. That's incredible. And so I feel, and this is probably a prediction for the next 5 to 10 years, is that TVs, because the USB-C, that's the size of it. The USB-C port structure is so much smaller and more compact, and I think a better direction than either traditional, direct port DP display port, and as well as HDMI. Like you're just shrinking a technology and still getting all the benefits, charging, all this stuff. The bandwidth's incredible on that. That's incredible technology. We've come a long way since, old school RGA cabling. Wow. But I think this is the future. And I think even USB 5 or whatever that tech is, we're probably going to see a shift from monitors, which are starting to do USB-C, to TVs even, and having such a dramatic change. I don't know the cost, but I imagine it can't be much more than HDMI because there's so many devices that use USB. I think it's a standard. I'm excited about this technology. I'm excited to see, an agreed upon change where motherboards and everything gets away from the USB-A even eventually. You'll probably get adapters still, but getting away from that and going to this tech is exciting. And I think it's going to free up some bandwidth on graphics cards. Now, will it ever be as fast as a PCI laned graphics card? No, absolutely not. It can't, because you need that lane to be, your times 16. Eventually, we'll probably go to times 32 or whatever for PCI lanes. And as processors get more and more cool about how many PCI lanes you can use, it's going to be incredible, because everything's going kind of like AI graphics and all that stuff. But this, in regards to technology, and I think the standardization that's going to come along with this, and going to have these cool thin cables instead of these big thick ones, is exciting to me as a tech nerd. I'm excited for this technology. What do you guys think? I'm excited. Are you excited? What do you think about that Xbox? If you got any questions, put them down in the chat below. Please. I'm doing pretty good. Not bad for a guy that's only been on, YouTube for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. Like, subscribe, and share, people. Check out my long form and my short form videos. It really helps with the algorithm at YouTube. And I'm just growing the GenXRants Nation, right? And I appreciate you guys all coming, checking out everything that I'm talking about and supporting me. Oh, wow, look what happened here. You know, I'm learning as I go. Let's just shut that off. I'm learning as I go, and I appreciate you all. Peace.